Eight-time Pro Bowl wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. is on waivers. I am told Beckham has a short list of teams that he would want to play for. The focus for Beckham is to land in the right situation. He's on.
3 years ago, Odell Beckham Jr.'s father liked a video that showed how Baker Mayfield was missing his son when he was wide open down the field. This one video changed the careers of his son, Odell Beckham Jr., and Baker Mayfield completely. Baker Mayfield had a completely new narrative shaped around him, whereas his son went on to win a Super Bowl with the Los Angeles Rams. And now 3 years later, OBJ's career has completely changed. And it seems like yet again, another team has given up on him. So we need to ask the question, is this the end of Odell Beckham Jr. and what can we expect from here on out? Before we get to the content, we are 15,000 subscribers away from 1 million subscribers. So make sure you subscribe and turn on our notifications to help us get to that goal. And now that we get all of that out of the way, work! We made money the last 2 times we got a free square, and now PrizePicks is giving us one for Christmas Day. All Nikola Jokic needs is 1 point on Christmas Day for his square to hit. So we just have to pair this with 1 more square to 3x our money. I was able to do this with Tyreek Hill on Thanksgiving and Patrick Mahomes this past weekend, and I give away all my picks on my Instagram story at @TheFlightMike and Snapchat FlightMikeSnap. If you want to take advantage of this promo, click on the link in the description down below or use my promo code Mikerophone to get $50 when you make an entry of $5 or more. And thank you, PrizePicks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? For a span of 4 years, Odell Beckham Jr. was the most iconic and marketable wide receiver in the entire NFL. Whether it's his rivalry with Josh Norman in the earlier part of his career, or that incredible one-handed catch he had over Brandon Carr versus the Dallas Cowboys, Odell Beckham Jr. gave us 3 1,000-yard receiving seasons with the New York Giants, and was without a doubt the highlight of the New York Giants for about 3 seasons, where he was able to become a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro. He'd get a contract extension shortly after, before David Gettleman decided to trade him to the Cleveland Browns. And this is where OBJ's career begins to fall off a little bit. In 2019, he teamed up with Baker Mayfield and put together a respectable season statistically, even though Freddie Kitchens had clearly no idea how to use him. But after that, OBJ's career got very bumpy very quickly. In 2020, he got injured with the Cleveland Browns and wasn't able to play a full season, and in 2021, he indirectly called out his quarterback Baker Mayfield for not ever being able to find him when he's wide open deep. As a result, the Cleveland Browns would release OBJ, and everybody started having questions about Baker Mayfield. And it seems like a few years later, the narrative about these two is completely different. I mean, at the time, OBJ joined the Los Angeles Rams and made a minor dent in the Super Bowl, but was a huge part of the Rams Super Bowl run. But as a result of tearing his ACL in the Super Bowl, OBJ entered a very unique free agency. You see, this is the second time he had an issue with his ACL, and he clearly wasn't going to be able to play football until the 2023 season, but that never stopped the melodramatic Odell Beckham Jr. from flirting with the Dallas Cowboys for multiple months on end. In one of the most nauseating stories I think I've ever covered, OBJ was spotted being courted by the Dallas Cowboys. Micah Parsons took him to a Dallas Mavericks game. When he arrived at the game, all of Dallas chanted OBJ's name. OBJ. Only for him to reveal to us that he was not going to be capable of playing football until the very next year, which was gut-wrenching to Cowboy fans because we really believed 2022 was going to be our year, and it's not like we say that each and every year. The Cowboys inevitably signed T.Y. Hilton over OBJ, and during the offseason, OBJ would sign with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, this was OBJ's last chance to prove to us that he is a wide receiver one, as he pretty much signed a prove-it deal with the Baltimore Ravens. Dolphins a 1-year, $15 million contract. And in that 1 year, he was okay. I mean, he wasn't $15 million good, but he started in 6 games, played in 14 games in totality, brought in 35 receptions for 565 yards and 3 touchdowns. Solid numbers for a wide receiver 3, but not necessarily someone you'd give big money to. And I think this is where OBJ kind of shoots himself in the foot, because he keeps hopping from team to team to team, and even when a team knows how to utilize him correctly, he'd always try to leave for greener pastures, perceiving himself as the same prime version of himself as he was about a decade ago. And don't get me wrong, OBJ on the Giants was absolutely electric. I do periodically meme the fact that he turned 1 catch into a career, but if I'm taking my posting on X aside, I have to admit, man, this guy had 5 1,000-yard plus wide receiving seasons. They just never really translated to anything meaningful in the postseason. And by the time he was able to win a Super Bowl, he wasn't necessarily the wide receiver 1 for the Rams. So more recently, after a okay season with the Ravens, he decided to leave to join the Miami Dolphins, which I could understand the philosophy here, because last year the Miami Dolphins were one of the most prolific offenses in the entire NFL. Tua Tagovailoa threw for 4,624 passing yards. He completed 69% of his passes. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill had incredible seasons for themselves. Jalen Waddle has been a 1,000 plus yard receiver in each and every season that he's been in the NFL, although that streak might be in jeopardy this year. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill both combined for nearly 2,900 yards last year, so I could understand the philosophy in regards to joining the Miami Dolphins as the wide receiver 3. At the very minimum, you're gonna have a good time in Miami, joining a playoff contender that has a prolific rushing attack, a great passing attack, and all that needs to happen is you need to play in warm weather and against a crappy team, and Tua needs to stay healthy. And unfortunately for Miami, those haven't been consistently happening this year. Tua got injured in the beginning of the season. The Miami Dolphins have had a much tougher schedule this season as opposed to previous seasons, and they've had plenty of cold weather games as well. And as a result of the Miami Dolphins not really being able to figure out their team chemistry throughout the year, OBJ was not featured in this offense at all. He was targeted 18 times for 9 receptions and 55 yards, and he clearly wasn't happy about it. He called out the Dolphins throughout the year, and now the Miami Dolphins decided that enough is enough. So according to Ian Rappaport, Odell Beckham Jr. was released by the Miami Dolphins. Eventually he would hit waivers, but no team was really willing to claim it, which is very significant when you consider the fact that OBJ only signed a 1-year, $3 million contract with the Dolphins. So the fact that no one wants to claim that is very telling about OBJ's value in the NFL right now. Now, the craziest part about this isn't stopping OBJ from presenting himself as the superstar wide receiver that he was a decade ago, because look at what his team told the NFL Network.
Eight-time Pro Bowl wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. is on waivers after mutually parting ways with the Dolphins on Friday. And just like 3 years ago when he cleared waivers, signed with the Rams, and ended up winning a Super Bowl, I am told Beckham has a short list of teams that he would want to play for. Now, it's not entirely clear where that list begins and ends, though obviously there's a couple of teams that he's played with before that are in the playoff chase. One of them that currently has a situation you just mentioned with another one of its wide receivers. The focus for Beckham is to land in the right situation. He's on.
And it's just really sad to see, because I think he's completely delusional about his stock right now. I mean, I think Josina Anderson says it best. She says, while OBJ is expected to officially complete waivers today, considering how deep it is into the season and his most recent path, in my opinion, it would be best to let the process go by. This not only gives prospective teams more time to assess fit, but also permits a veteran player to choose the most stable situation to punctuate their career. And that's the thing. OBJ has always tried to chase the pot of gold on a multitude of different teams. Even when it worked out with the LA Rams and he was injured, he didn't want to sign a contract extension with the team that he won a Super Bowl with. And I think that's what always shoots OBJ in the foot, because the most likely scenario for OBJ right now is to join a contending team, probably have the same role he had with the Miami Dolphins as he will with this contending team, and then hit free agency and probably get another veteran minimum contract. Now look, man, obviously the Dolphins offense hasn't been what it used to be last year, and I guess you could partially blame that on Tua, especially when his throwing with anticipation is predetermination over here. But just take a look at all the best case case scenarios for OBJ, right? The prime candidate to sign Odell Beckham Jr. would probably be Baltimore. Baltimore is currently dealing with some issues with their newly acquired wide receiver, Deontay Johnson. It got so bad that they needed to release the statement that says that they have mutually agreed with Deontay Johnson to excuse him from team activities this week. And when you consider the fact that OBJ has had tremendous chemistry with Lamar Jackson on the Baltimore Ravens, it seems like this would make a ton of sense for him, and clearly he still has the potential that he used to have. On top of that, Baltimore more or less has the same pieces in place. Yeah, Rashad Bateman has taken a larger role. Yeah, they have Derrick Henry now. You don't have to alter your offense too much to bring in a player that was on your roster last year. Now, another option could potentially be the LA Rams. If you guys remember, not too long ago, I made a video about the LA Rams potentially trading Cooper Kupp if they didn't win their nationally televised game on Thursday Night Football around that time. And it's kind of crazy because the best case scenario happened for the Rams. The Rams would go on this crazy win streak and have won 7 of their last 9 games. And we already know the NFC West is the wild west, because take a look at these standings, bro. They're like so close. The Rams are currently at the top, but all the rest of the division is still in it. Obviously, some of these teams have more problems than others, but there's familiarity between Sean McVay and Odell Beckham Jr. The problem is Sean McVay hasn't really entertained this either. Sean McVay last week said he still loves Beckham, but that bringing him back wasn't a focus. On Monday, McVay says that it hasn't even been something the team has kicked around. That's not something we've talked about yet, according to Sean McVay. And honestly, if you are Sean McVay, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze in bringing back Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, don't get me wrong, it might help to have some depth behind Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp in the event something happens to one of these two or both of them like it did in the beginning of the season, and that could be a great opportunity for Odell Beckham Jr. to show that he still has plenty left in the tank. Between them and the Baltimore Ravens, the other teams that are being thrown around are the Kansas City Chiefs, but the Kansas City Chiefs have plenty of wide receivers like OBJ. This team has plenty of former high-end wide receivers that are trying to establish themselves, whether it's DeAndre Hopkins or Juju Smith-Schuster. Then they recently drafted Xavier Worthy, and they're getting back Hollywood Brown. But then at the same time, Rashee Rice, Sky Moore, and Mecole Hardman are all on IR, so this could be another instance where a team that has championship expectations wants to pursue some more depth. And they recently released Clyde Edwards-Helaire, so maybe the Kansas City Chiefs could want to pursue OBJ. At the end of the day, I don't think this is a player that is going to move the needle very much. I think OBJ is pretty close to the end of his career, because at the end of the day, there's no point in signing a wide receiver that is just going to leave your team in about 3 months from now to pursue another team that might seem better on paper, but it never works out for him. Let me know in the comment section down below if you think this is the end of Odell Beckham Jr. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.